Our next guest is ShuttleOne founder and CEO, HongZhuang Lim, who joins us from Singapore. Thank you so much for joining in the middle of the night. I deeply appreciate it, where he and his startup have been hammering away at real-world uses of stablecoins in trade finance, having deployed some of the very first uses in the world. It's really a pleasure to have you on the show, Zhuang.
Thank you, an honor. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So maybe we can start just briefly, tell us about the history of ShuttleOne and how you got into this and working in this problem space.
So ShuttleOne has been a startup. We're based in Singapore for about 2 years. We were founded as a group of friends at the end of 2018. And we saw a very clear need at the height of crypto winter, right? I guess, and this clear need was, there was a lot of promises of the blockchain, the technology, stablecoins was just coming out, but there was no real world use case. It wasn't impacting, many forces of life that, the blockchain technology is supposed to function. So we decided to do something very simple from the onset, and that was just building fiat on and off ramps for the Southeast Asian countries like Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, Thailand, and so on. So with that in place, and one of our first few transactions to Indonesia, to IDR, was actually a remittance from Malaysia to Indonesia, utilizing 400, I think it was 452 cents, $400 of USDC.
Nice.
And it was done in a matter of like 13 minutes. Which is unheard of in the remittance space, and end to end in that sense, right? So from there, we decided to branch out into what are the more impactful use cases there could be. So we started looking at real assets, things like your trade financing, cargo. We were fortunate enough to work with some of the government entities around the region that supports global supply chains. We work with ports now, and programmable money such as the stable coins, USDC, for example. We are able to capture off-chain data, so things like your port data, things like your risk management data, bring them on-chain and interact with a virtual currency like USDC to make certain disbursement for trade finance and make the financial services seamless and very straightforward in that sense. Yeah,
it's very, very, very cool. And I know you've been at the sort of cutting edge of this. Maybe just walk through like an end-to-end use case for stablecoins in these trade use cases tied to the kind of ports and shipping activity. Like get maybe very, very specific about like an end-to-end use case.
Absolutely. And maybe since we are in the COVID-19 pandemic, I'll bring up an example. Awesome. That I'm very proud of. So one of these things that came along in the months of April, May, June till now, actually, especially during the early onset of the pandemic, a lot of the small and medium-sized enterprises. I mean, Paul mentioned earlier on that corporations, no problem with credit. Everybody's going to fund them. But the SMEs, right, the small and medium-sized businesses, cash flow financing is a lifeline. And before the pandemic, we are already having big issues with such SME financing in that sense. So at the early stages of the pandemic, when people are trying to secure masks, gloves, PPEs, especially from maybe China or production houses like Indonesia or Thailand, right? And when they fall below the credit line, that's always an issue. So we had many instances from April where the merchants are able to take a loan on the blockchain, on the internet, if I may, pay their suppliers, which they instruct the smart contracts, right? Which it's all powered by infrastructure of smart contracts. Who they want to pay, say in China or in Thailand, for example, and the supplier gets paid. They secure their supplies, all right. And because we work with some of the biggest ports around in Southeast Asia, they are able to arrange for logistics, and move these supplies, and in quick fashion in that sense, which maintains certain business continuity. And this is important, for SMEs, for their communities where they serve. We serve a lot of merchants who are in rural areas of Indonesia, for example, right? And these things cannot be late. Some of these supplies cannot stop. And, being efficient in, financing, being efficient because of in payments, does make a big difference during this period of time.
That's pretty powerful. So you're using, essentially, I don't know if it's truly oracleized, like port data to communicate the sort of movement of goods, provide underwriting based on that, provide credit in the form of stable coins to kind of provide forward capital to kind of move goods to the next phase.
So yeah, right. Maybe I can expound a little bit on that port data side. So we tokenize the port data. We have a process innovation that ties the on-chain risk management to the off-chain processes risk management. And with these two combined, and with the efficiency of stablecoins and digital assets, that creates stability in this whole trade. And when I mean stability, it actually reduces the level of trust that is needed, maybe without the blockchain technologies, without programmable money in that sense, all right? And it allows the trade to be more straightforward and efficient. So that's how we are doing, capturing data. There's operational data, tokenizing those data, and making sure that the risks involved are well mitigated.
That's awesome. So as you sort of look out and what you're building, you're obviously implementing processes and using technologies that are new, both in trade and commerce and in the financial system. What are the barriers that you see, especially within the Southeast Asia market? What are the barriers that you see to this having much wider or broader adoption?
I think in Southeast Asia, we're always a little bit behind in terms of, the thought process or developments of the West in that sense, right? So we don't know what we don't know. And this includes a lot of the partners that we interact with on a day-to-day basis. So I think awareness is always, the first hurdle. We spend a lot of time lobbying, educating, creating awareness, not just for the people that work immediately with us, but also their stakeholders. So that could include their operational partners and stuff. But I don't think that's the biggest hurdle. I think one of the key hurdles could be always regulatory, right? It's still gray in most parts of, I think, Southeast Asia. I'm based in Singapore. We have a law for digital assets, or what we like to call digital payment tokens. We call it crypto, right? So it's taboo words like that, right? That we don't talk about crypto publicly, but everybody knows that it's virtual assets, crypto on using the blockchain. So I think regulatory is also a big hurdle, and I think lastly, I think great UI and an awesome UX is missing. We build a lot of these smart contracts are in the background, right? It's behind, it's powering something like. Smart contracts power software that are, almost as old as me, almost 36, 37, years old, and they're still using that. So these are the main challenges, I think, and we need great user experience for mass adoption. I think even for on the enterprise side, for them to understand how this works in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think I see that the regulatory piece, the user experience piece, and then obviously the sort of scalability and efficiency of these underlying platforms, which I think is being addressed, more and more. Well, that's very, very helpful, Zhiwang. I really appreciate you joining to share the ShuttleOne story and how you're solving problems with stablecoins in trade and in Southeast Asia. Really deeply appreciate you joining us in the middle of the night again. So,
it's all good. Thank you very much for the opportunity and for the stage that you have given us. I mean, Circle has done a great job with USDC, and it's one of the most efficient I would say, stable coins that we use for remittance and trade financing in our ecosystem right now.
That's great to hear. Awesome. Have a great rest of your night.
Thank you, Jeremy. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Absolutely.